So this is 2014 ordinary level question, and hopefully at this stage we should really not need very much of this video. But just in case there's one or two of you that are still struggling, I'll just go through it. So the first thing we want to draw is our triangle here, and there's a length of 100. So just be careful, this green line obviously isn't fully to size, but it gives you a good idea of where to start. So I'm going to make that out 100. I'll now do my 60-degree set square. And we'll draw this. Now, as I said before, you could draw the triangle first, or you could draw crosshairs first, or the crow's feet, whichever you prefer. But I'm going to go with these, and I go, this is Z, in this case. This is Y. And I'll try to keep the colours fairly similar, just in order for us to fit it in. So I'm going to go up with this view here first. Now the one thing I just need to be careful of is there is a little bit sticking up, so I won't go right up to the top. I'll use maybe a light blue to keep it consistent again. So what I mean by that is when I project up to here, I'll probably start at about there, and that should give me enough space for the semicircle. Just to be 100% sure. Okay, so I'll draw my green line, and as we said before, if I'm bisecting it, I should bisect it with, if I'm trying to find center point, I should use the bisection method in order to do that. Okay. So this one here is one I want to bisect. So I'll set it to slightly over halfway and bisect both of them. So we'll draw a line there to find our center point. Now they drew our semicircle there in blue. Okay, so I'll get a blue. And we'll bring that around like so. So we're now going to project out this line to meet it. Okay, so what do they call it? Our Z line. So it's up at 30 degrees, we'll touch it off that. And that's basically the point at which we're going to join to the top of the semicircle and to the bottom in order to get our angle at which to place our adjustable set square at, or angle at which to place this structure at. So it's a 60mm high structure. I just want to set my adjustable set square. Like so. Okay. And we will start to construct it out. So we're not sure straight away if we look at it and go, well, there's no measurement there. So if it's not in this view, it must be in this view. So it's 50mm long. Oops, there's a little bit of a smudge there. 50mm long, and it's 60mm. So I'll use my adjustable set square then to complete the cube. Let's give that a second to dry, because it is a little bit smudgy. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to draw my semicircle. Now I'm not going to bother bisecting. I think I'll be accurate enough by measuring half of 50 is 25, but if you want to, you could also technically bisect the top. So let's see, I'll just mark it there. Okay, and we'll set my compass. I'll put in my black and I'll set it to radius 20. Set that a little bit off. Okay, so we have a radius 20 and we have our front view done. So we're going to repeat the same process for the plan view. So we project down. Find my blue. And this bit now, we just need to be a little bit careful just in terms of where to position this. So, but it's not too difficult in the fact that it doesn't stick out very far, but I don't want to be too close. So let me see. There we go. So I'm going to draw a line. Probably should have used a green there for that, just to keep it consistent. But the method is the same. I left a gap there of about 30 mil. It doesn't stick out very far, so that should be fine. So what I'll do again is I'll bisect it. Sorry, it just slows me down a little bit just to switch my colour markers all the time. So again, I'll set it over halfway for the blue line. And mark like so. Same again here. It's just gone. I don't know if you can see the bottom one, but you just have to trust me on that. And I'll draw my line like so. So I'll draw my semicircle now. And use a blue, and we'll proceed to put in the plan view down. Okay, so I'm happy enough with that. I'll bring down my pink line to meet it. There's my point, and I'll then join this to the two corners. Okay, that'll be 40. Oops. At ordinary level, that will always be 45 degrees, right? In fairness, it's actually going to be almost 45 degrees even at higher and ordinary level. Okay, but they showed us there that was 45 degrees, so instead of me having to use my little tester, I can just use this. So we have a length here of 50. Okay, so I'll take my black again. And I'll start from 80 this time, just because it's easy to get it in. We'll go to 130, and then our distance this way is 30 millimeters. Okay. So we have the main plan drawn. So what I want to do now is basically I want to draw the other part. So I'll come in 5 mil from either side. Now hopefully this comes out okay because my markers are a little thick for this. Alright, but literally I'm coming in 5 mil from each side. Okay, so ideally I wouldn't be doing this with thick markers, but just for the sake of us seeing it. So actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw it in red and green just to stand it out of it, and that was the colour that they had there. Okay. So I might use my marker maybe just to shade in a red. Okay, so we're happy enough with that. We'll look at these lines in a second, but for the minute, I'll just shade this in a little bit in red. So that's basically this structure here. And then the other part is green, which I probably shouldn't have shaded in yet until I fully completed the question. But anyways, you can see basically what we're working with there. The reason I say that is just because when I show these points it may look a little bit awkward to see exactly what we're marking. But we're going to take the cuboid first, so I'm going to use a slightly different colour. I'm going to use this sort of orangey peachy colour just to bring it up. So I'll bring up my 4 points from plan of the cuboid, the red one or the black outline. And these here then will come down at 30 degrees, and you can see how they did that. And if you're ever unsure how they got a point, because it may not be completed in full, don't be afraid to draw on this and just figure out exactly where did that line up. So I have that there. I'm going to bring, I forgot about bringing down the top points, so bring those down. And I have this. So I'm going to just heavy in what I'm given, and then it'll sort of become apparent. So maybe I'll just use the green for the sake of showing. So this here, edge here, is this. Okay, and then they drew across the front. Now they didn't show the cuboid in full, but you can see that that would line up with it. You can see that would line up with it. And I'll draw all this in the heavy green. I'm not going to draw the top in the heavy green because the curve structure on the top is going to get in the way of it. Okay, there's going to be some bit of, particularly the back edge, that's not no longer going to be seen. I'm just going to draw it like that, and I'll just use my peach that I was using just to show what the cuboid would look like in full if there was no curved structure on top. So you can see sort of what that would look like. Okay, So what we want to do now is basically want to work on the curved part. Now we could technically get the two starting edges, but really what I do is I'd label all the points. So we have a radius of 20 here. Now 20 doesn't divide it evenly by 3. Some people would split this into 60 and 30 degrees. I'm not going to, I'm just going to divide it roughly by 3. So 20 roughly divided by 3 is 7. 3 sevens are 21. So I'm going to mark in 7, and I'm going to mark in 14. And I'm going to do the same from the other side. So I'm going to mark in 7, and I'm going to mark in 14. So I'm going to use these in a purple just so that you can see them. So I'm going to go back to my adjustable set square just to bring those points up. 7 and 14 in from the front, 7 and 14, or say from the left hand side, 7 and 14 in from the right hand side, and then I have my centre line. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do exactly the same thing here, and that's what they're doing here. So I'm going to come in 7 and 14, and I should have had the 20 mil marked, and I'll come in 7 and 14. Now you could transfer these by a compass as well if you wanted, but I have my various points there. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw them across just for safety. I'm going to use a different way than using the exact point for the back, but just so that you can see them. Okay, so again mine might be a little bit off just because of the markers, but you can see they're here. Now what they've done is the reasons theirs looks closer is because they probably have split this into 60 and 30. The only thing that really matters is that whatever distance you came in here on this one, it's the same on this one. That's the critical part. So I'm going to number them. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7, and again hopefully they're seeable. Sometimes the markers are a little bit thick for that. So I'm going to bring up the points, so I'll use this sort of darker orange. Sorry, what I should have done is just numbered the points here. So 1, and this is probably why I shouldn't have used the red. You probably won't be able to see them, but I number them 1 to 7. So what I'm going to do is just bring all them up. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now you could do these one at a time, but typically at this stage you should be well able to bring up multiples of them, but just be careful when you're intersecting them, okay, that you get the right ones. So there's 7, and down there's 6. So again, make sure you're bringing them from the top rather than from the bottom. 5, 4, hopefully I'm far enough with 1, 3, 2, and finally 1. Okay, so probably maybe I should have just done 1 and 7 and 4 to start off with, but I have my 0.7 there, and this edge here will come across, which is this one, and I have my 0.1. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start intersecting. So this is 6, so again just carefully make sure you know which one is. Put a little set square on it if you want. So that's that, and that's something came down from 6. We're happy enough with that. Okay, we now have 5, so again I'm just putting my little set square on it just to make sure, and 5 was the one up from 6, so there's 5. We have 4, basically this line, there's that one, and then it comes down here from 4, there's 4. We have 3, so hopefully the purple is shown up on these. 3 is this one. We have 2, which is this one. No, sorry, I must have been wrong. That must be 3. That must be 2. Yep. Okay, and then we're happy enough with the point. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sketch those in. Okay. 2, 5, 2, 6 to 7. Okay, so you can see my curve coming apart there. Now, what I could do is I could do the exact same thing for the back. I could label them, was it 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, up to 14. But what's the easier thing to do is just bring up this point here. So again, I'll use my sort of just salmon color. This would be the back. Okay, so I'm just going to highlight that there in a purple. And once I know that, I know the distance that each of those points go back, because they all have to be, it's not getting wider or getting thinner. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to do it in a blue just to stand it out a little bit, so I just need to heighten this up a little bit. I'm going to set this here to this distance, and I'm going to put it on 6, and I'm going to put it on 5, I'm going to put it on 4, and I'm going to put it on 3, and I'm going to put it on 2. Now I can put it on 1 as well, but I'm probably not going to see that. So I'm going to lightly draw this in a purple for a minute, so that will come around basically like that. And what I need to know is exactly the point at which this happened. So we looked at this briefly before, but I'll just take this little brown, and if I bring this up to 4, and I make basically an edge as if it was a cuboid. If that went out to there, so if that was a cuboid, it would be that sort of brown shape. And if I join the center to there, that tells me the exact point at which the curve appears. Okay, so it's not worth many marks, but it is handy marks not to be losing. Well, that's that point exactly. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to heavy these in. This may look black, but it's sort of a darkish purple. Okay, as I said, unfortunately the thickness of the markers makes it a little more difficult. And then the last thing that I'm going to do is I just want to get my heavy marker here and my heavy marker here. Skip to the 30 degrees. And there's my question completed. Okay, so I got mixed up with my colours. This should have been red and this should have been green, but you get the general gist of what exactly it's trying to do. Okay, so if you're able to do that, that should allow you to do all ordinary level questions pretty much, and allow you to do 2/3 of the higher level questions. Okay, there's a little bit of difference in the setup, but most of it is very, very similar.